Let's move on to the persuasive policy presentations. And some initial instructions so you can get going on picking a topic as you start to build this, which will be your final presentation. Definitely the biggest and intended to be the most intense. These instructions have been adjusted for this new situation we find ourselves in. However, some additional adjustments may be necessary. We'll see how it goes. I'm a little concerned that some of the research may be a little bit difficult, but yet a lot can be done online. And perhaps by then we'll know if the library, for instance, has librarians available for virtual meetings and so on. In any case, I am doing this a little backwards, intentionally. I haven't yet lectured to you, although you may be reading about the different kinds of persuasive presentations, speeches. And I actually mentioned it in a class earlier. We haven't yet done Monroe's motivated sequence, which is mentioned in the textbook, but I'm going to give you more detail about it, and it's going to apply here more directly. But that's okay. You'll need that stuff as you really get into this, but not as you're picking a topic and focusing the topic and developing the SPS and the CT and so on. Having been said, let's talk about topics. For better and worse, you may be happy or sad to learn that I am not focusing your topics here. Unlike the informative presentation where I said, hey, you've got to talk about linguistics, and that was still very broad, and there was a huge number of possible topics, and you're working on that now. However, or maybe that's all you've just been completed. Not in any case. You may not have liked the idea, but it did at least narrow your areas of possible topics pretty dramatically from the entire world to at least one field of study. But I'm not going to do that this time. I'm going to tell you about some topics that I don't want you to use, but otherwise I'm not going to narrow it at all, really, except that it's a type of speech, therefore that narrows the idea. So what do I mean? Well, this is a policy speech, meaning your goal is to change behavior. Now, behavior changes can be big and small. In fact, there might be a variety of behavior changes that are involved in your speech that you want people to do. Some people might be able to handle some changes more than others. It might be a range of changes. However, it's not changing their mind about something, although there might be some of that involved. It's certainly not changing their values. We're not asking you to change some deeply held beliefs about some fundamental things about their character, about their culture, about their religion, about their so on. This is changing something that you change what you do. So there's that. That already makes it somewhat narrower. And then as far as topics go, there's the old-fashioned statement that says, really, there's no good topics, just good speakers. Yes, okay. But I really want you to focus on a practical, real-world issue. All right, and remember, this has to be relevant to the people who you'll be talking to, who you're imagining still is your class or general audience, I suppose. So therefore, you need to find something, you need to be able to convince them that they need to change something, so it has to be something that's relevant to them. So below I have a list of topics to avoid. Let me start, though, before we can get to that, with the big one. No topics related to coronavirus, COVID-19, pandemic, any of this stuff. Why? Well, honestly, we have too much of this stuff in our lives right now. I think it's good to focus on something different. And in general, you'll see, even before this happened, the rule was, I don't want you to focus on anything which is saturated in the media, which is all around us already. And also, I think about the coronavirus, things are just changing too quickly, too. So considering all those things, let's instead say, consider a problem in your own life that doesn't relate to that. Problems in homes, in dorms, in campus, with traffic, problems with institutions you use, like maybe hospitals, but not hospitals as related to coronavirus, colleges, but not related to coronavirus, libraries, stores, schools, hotels. So I know this is a bit of a thought challenge to say separate these things from the coronavirus, but you really need to. There's lots of problems that we could address before coronavirus happens, and those things are still there. Consider problems and things that are important to you: pets, relatives, families, health, sleep, music, baby, clothing, Why did I put those things in there? I don't know. Just, in other words, anything. I'm just trying to get you to break up the world into little chunks and see it like that. You might speak about specific problems related to stages of life, children, adolescents, young adults, seniors, death, but not COVID, funerals. When brainstorming, get specific. So, yes, you will probably start to focus on a more broad idea, but then you have to make it more specific. Maybe you choose security in dorms, or pet health, or food on campus. Well, those things are all too broad. Instead of security in dorms, maybe it's ways to prevent thefts in dorms, or some other specific topic related to security in dorm life. Maybe it's, if it's pet health, maybe it's a particular pet disease or a particular type of pet has a certain vulnerability, and how to change something and the way you handle them or your life to make that better. Food on campus is too broad. Maybe it's things that you should change to improve your nutrition on campus, or ways you could cook yourself to improve things or something, So you get specific, but don't necessarily use those topics, okay? You can come up with your own. Avoid topics too broad, connected directly to values. So not to values, not to things that we hold as fundamental to our core principles. And things that are too saturated in the media. For instance, coronavirus, or abortion, euthanasia, gun control, violence, rights, impeachment, which is a bit old hat now, although I guess it could be talked again. Marijuana, legalizing marijuana, current social movements, Me Too, Black Lives Matter, so on and so forth, national politics in general, pornography and sex in general, religion, and Trump in general, okay? No topics to do with those. So hopefully by eliminating some specific topics and topic areas and telling you it has to be a policy presentation, now you can focus on something else. And this might be something you already know a lot about, unlike the linguistics topic. Maybe this is something you already know a lot about, or maybe it's just something you want to learn about. Now, also, when you think about your topic, think about the ways you're going to research it. I'm afraid that these days it's mostly going to be online. Although you could call somebody up and interview them, and maybe there will be some library access remotely and librarian access remotely that can help you too. But I think you're mostly going to be relying on online research. So that might help to push you one way or the other too. Or maybe you've got books in your house, or friends have some books related to something that you can borrow, or magazines that you can research with too. And yes, actually, the online tools in the library are still all available. And again, there may be librarians available to help you with those too. Or maybe you're already familiar with those. That would be great too. Okay, so that's how to pick the topic. Good. Let's continue about what you are going to do more specifically. I'm going to talk to you now about the actual instructions for the presentation. And I really suggest you come back to this document later as you're moving along and look at it a few more times. It'll be sitting here on Moodle waiting, or maybe just print it out if you want. Because this is going to span a number of weeks through to the end of the semester. So I want you to make sure that you come back to these and to really remember what it is you're supposed to do and what's due when and so on. There's really only two dates. I want you to have your topic chosen and submit it to me by Tuesday, April 21st. So that's a little while, but you got lots of other things going on, so set aside some time here and there to brainstorm and to come up with a topic. Not just a topic, I want you to write out a specific purpose statement and essential thesis. These are going to be persuasive now. You'll be reading about persuasive things, and I'll be talking more about it next week's stuff. But that's a little different, but really not that much different. Okay? And you're going to submit these in a Word document or PDF on Moodle. Then the actual last day of class is when the presentation is due. 2 o'clock that day. That's recorded as usual in the new situation that we're in. And then the paperwork is also submitted there in the normal way on Moodle. Instructions. After you find and focus a topic, okay, we already talked about that. The research and using Monroe's motivated sequence. What the heck is that? Okay, we haven't done Monroe's yet, but we will, so don't worry about that yet. You'll learn more about it soon. You'll have read a little bit about it too, though. You'll submit this outline on speech day. Yes, you're going to have a general purpose. Yes, a specific purpose. The specific purpose now is going to be to persuade my audience that they should do something or something. This is an example one. So now it is to persuade. First time we really wanted to see that. The SPS should clearly identify the problem. It must be a policy SPS. It must lead to a problem that can be changed or be addressed with some behavior. The central thesis is going to lead towards those solutions. Okay? Problem cause or problem cause solution format. You can read about those in your text and more about those in the future. So this actually is going to be submitted back there on the first due date, but then resubmitted again with the other paperwork on the final due date. Now this stuff is in the final paperwork, and it's to help you prepare for it also. Your introduction and in your outline, document these. An attention step. That's just attention-getting devices. Again, I want you to use at least 2, and 3 would be better, I suppose. And again, you're going to document these in paperwork, what you're going to do. Build to a specific problem in your introduction. So you get your attention, and then you build to the topic. And then you do signposted preview. But the preview is not exactly the same because the main ideas are not exactly the same. They have more to do with describing the problem and then presenting a solution. So for this example, first we're going to explain how shopping cart injuries are a serious problem. Second, we'll consider the 3 major causes of them. Finally, we'll discover how we can prevent them. Okay? So, but it's still a signposted preview statement. Now, I've not said that I want you to write this out in paragraph form. I probably should have said that. I think it'd be really useful to you. But if nothing else, tell me the preview statement and what the specific problem, how you're going to build to it, and then give me the attention step. But if you write out your introduction in paragraph form and label these things as you go, that will take care of it. Then there's the body, a proper visual format again, Roman numerals, use indenting, use subpoints, number the subpoints, and those things are all in full sentences. Every main idea will have at least 2 sources. Directly credit and qualify the sources in your outline as you plan to say them in your speech. Remember, you need at least 2 bits of information to qualify each. Whoops, sorry, I left my phone on. Okay, let me continue. So the sources, at least 2 for each of these main ideas, at least 2 bits of information to qualify each. Like where it came from, what the person's background or credentials are, when it was published, something that makes us want to believe the source. Maybe there's more than that you give too. See sample outlines in our text, chapter 11 again, yes. Main ideas, each of the items in the outline should be written as a complete idea or statement, like a complete sentence. Include transitions between each main idea and speaker. Oh, that's something that slipped through from a past, as is that more statement there, from an earlier version when this was going to be a group presentation, but it is not. So you will have transitions between your main ideas, but they're not transitions between speakers. Main idea 1 is the need step. Main idea 2 is a subject satisfaction step. Then we have a visualization step, perhaps, might be a 3, or maybe it's in there as a transition. And then main idea 3 is the action step. What are these things? Need step, we talked about this already. Tell us why the thing, in this case, is a problem, because this is persuasive policy, why it's relevant to us, why we care, why it's important, why we should, something that we should want to pay attention to and maybe make a change about, right? It's an analysis of the cause or what maybe its own main idea, that might be its main idea, another main idea. So you could have more main ideas, these can break up a little more. This idea of need step actually will come into our Monroe's discussion, and satisfaction step certainly will, and visualization, and then the action step too. Satisfaction is the idea of, okay, but here's something we could do. Here are the solutions. Here's the plan. And again, I have sources for that. Then visualization, we like people to suggest what things would look like if we do this, right? Get the audience to visualize how the solutions will improve the problem, and perhaps how, if it's not solved, what's going to happen in the future, how this could be worse. And then the action step is we get them to convince them that once we convince them that it's a good idea to change, we have to tell them what they can do. And there could be a variety of actions, some more difficult than others, and some people would want to go further than others if they're persuaded. In conclusion, we signal the end by referring back to the beginning. We reinforce the content. Again, don't just repeat it, and then we have a clincher. So that's really not changed at all from the informational. And then we have a big blank page for some reason, who knows? things don't change. Things change on the PDFs. And then I want you to give a bibliography, again, the APA format. And now I said at least 8 sources. Is that what I said at the beginning? 6 sources. Yeah, so it's minimum 6 sources, really. I think you're going to end up with 8. It's more like it. Again, some little adjustment problems here in my document. But whatever you have, that you have to list them. And it also says interview sources. It would have been required to do interviews as part of this. It is no longer. However, you might very well do an interview via the phone if there's somebody to talk to about this problem. I encourage you to consider doing that. Doing an interview as part of this, and then you have that kind of other kind of documentation here. But it might be hard these days, and you certainly can't, almost certainly can't do an in-person one. Delivery. Convert the presentation outline to a speaking outline, or this could be called a preparation outline. This outline, this big outline you did, into a speaking outline, which is on cards. Follow our cards and tips guidelines from way back when we used to meet in person. And then recording is still the same. Remember, try to do your best to get good audio. Try to do your best to get the full body in the shot. Ideally, have someone video for you, or set up your phone or camera and try to do it yourself. But hey, practice, practice, practice. I can't enforce that, but I really encourage you to still do that. All right, now, again, there were some questions left in here because some things we haven't discussed yet, but I think that's certainly enough for you to get going on the idea. And again, please refer back to both the topics document and this overall document as we move forward.